The Clemson Tiger basketball team was certainly walking in Memphis, but now they're flying into the City of Angels. Brad Brownell and the Tigers are headed to the Sweet 16, and all of the basketball-loving world in Pickens County said amen. We're going to talk about that and a lot more on this episode of Around the Paw, so kick back, turn the volume up, and let's get going. Check us out. Well, fellas, when the NCAA tournament brackets came out about a week and a half ago, who would have had the Clemson Tigers, except maybe the most optimistic of us fans out there, taking on the Arizona Wildcats in the Sweet 16 in Los Angeles, California? What an incredible first two rounds of the NCAA tournament for Brad Brownell and the Clemson Tigers.
I mean, in a broad lens, this was one of the greatest weekends in Clemson athletics that I've heard in a while, and we'll get to that, in a little bit. I know we got a lot more to talk about, but what a win! And a lot of people were counting this team out early with the New Mexico squad, Mountain West champs, which was a five bid region, which was crazy compared to everything that went on in the ACC and the Big East and how they are now. But just what a win! I mean, you can't start anywhere else but with Chase Hunter. The way that he has played has been on another level from the ACC tournament when he had only 2 points against Boston College, which we talked about heavily. He has just been on a different level. I believe it was 21 against New Mexico, and then another 20 against Baylor. I mean, every shot that he's put up, he's been automatic. And there have been so many other key contributors. I've looked at the bench especially. How about RJ Godfrey? He's been a key guy down the stretch. Even last night, hit those 2 game-sealing free throws. He finished with 8 points while, PJ Hall, Ian Schieffelin, and Jack Clark were all going through some foul trouble. But, there's so much to talk about in terms of these games, in terms of who Clemson plays forward, in terms of Arizona. But I thought this team was either going to lose first round to a tough New Mexico team, which I will give them their flowers for. But if they beat New Mexico, the Baylor New Mexico played very similar. They played through their guards. Their front court was where Clemson could exploit. And Clemson not only did that, but, their guards shined on their own. Gerard had a solid game, but I mean, the guy that has kind of been the face of Clemson so far this tournament has been Chase Hunter. But what a great 2 wins this past weekend.
Yeah, man, for sure. I'll be honest with you. I was one of those people who I was like, I don't know. I think they can get past New Mexico, but Baylor was a whole different animal. They have a lot of length. They had a lot of length, and how about RJ Godfrey? Like, how about that dude? And really picking PJ Hall up and number 21, his name slips me
Wiggins.
for a minute, but yeah, Wiggins, and really picking up PJ Hall, and it just makes me happy. That's really all I can say. Like, all them Brownell haters, just get off his back. Like, he's the only coach in Clemson history to take Clemson to 2 Sweet 16s. And, he's got the most wins in freaking Clemson College, in Clemson University basketball history. And just get off his back. Give him a raise. That's all I got to say. Give the boy a raise.
Well, guys, let me tell you something. After that first game of the ACC tournament, how badly it ended. Look, there's no other way to describe it. It was ugly. It was just ugly in every conceivable manner that a basketball game can be ugly. And this Clemson team was, frankly, left for dead. They were given up and left on the side of the road to rot by just about everybody, including everybody in the national media. I don't know that I heard a single pundit or prognosticator in any of the national outlets predicting Clemson to beat New Mexico. If there were, I didn't see it, read it, or hear it. And I will be perfectly honest. I'll raise my hand. I'll admit it. I'll testify before the church. I was not hopeful going into that game. I didn't necessarily think New Mexico was a favorable matchup. But I was at work when that game got started. I didn't really get a chance to check my phone. I left work at 3 o'clock, I believe it was, and I pulled my phone out and I pulled up the score, and we were up. It was 15 points late in the first half, and my eyes just got big. I'm like, holy cow, what is going on here? And who is this Clemson team, and where did they come from? And I got home in time to see the end of that ball game. But I tell you what, that ball game, that win against New Mexico, to me, to my eyes, it seemed like all of that momentum just rolled right over into the Baylor game, because the start of that Baylor game yesterday was an almost carbon copy of the first round.
Oh, absolutely. And, to Cliff's point, you got to credit Brad Brownell. I know that a lot of people have counted him out. I will say I wasn't 100% with him the whole time, but I'm beyond thankful that, Clemson have been able to stay with him. His ability to kind of just sit and truly just revise. I said this in the past, his ability to do incredibly well on rematches. I'm looking at the win over North Carolina after that poor shooting night in early January. But I like you. I think New Mexico was a team on any analyst's board. People all over social media, they were a team that, Sweet 16, Elite 8 was calling their name. Apparently, to a bunch of people, Clemson were a betting underdog. I think they were a 2 or 3.5 point underdog, which is crazy for a 6V and 11 seed, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, that I really thought that if Clemson were going to win both these games, they had to get off to a hot start and they had to contain the guards, and they were able to do so. And it comes, you got to give credit again to Joe Girard, to Chase Hunter. Maybe, New Mexico and Baylor were not shooting the best. I know, New Mexico shot around 15% from three, which is never really going to work out. This has happened with Clemson all the time. And with Baylor, they missed a bunch of free throws down the stretch. But if you have to take away anything from this, you can't have that second half collapse that Clemson almost had in those last 6 minutes of that game. They were up 15. They let Baylor's Ray J. Dennis take over, which was a guy that I was worried about from the start. He was been a Toledo transfer. I watched him last year. He was just a dynamic guard. And as soon as I saw him going to Baylor, I'm like, this guy's going to be a star. He's going to be a stud. Clemson were able to weather the storm, though, hit their foul shots, which is huge. I'm thinking about the Georgia Tech game that went to overtime, where, Chase Hunter missed that three. Georgia Tech ran down the field, or the court, my bad, hit a three and tied the game, went to overtime. They eventually won that game in Little John. It's
North
progress.
Carolina at Clemson.
Same
North
thing.
Carolina.
And it comes a lot with a seniority of a group. And I really think that having a starting lineup of graduates, of seniors, of juniors, and have those flashy guys like sophomore, like Cliff said about RJ Godfrey, like about Chauncey Wiggins, who I thought played exceptionally well. He's a guy that was kind of around the arc the whole season. And I saw him posting up. I'm like, what is this? And it was working.
He doing?
It was working.
That's what I said.
He had 2 points off the post. He had a couple good plays on the defensive side, especially down the stretch. There have been a lot of different things that, Clemson fans are like, what is going on with this team? There have been so many adjustments, and you have to credit Brad Brownell, and you have to credit this team for being able to bounce back, especially after that tough Boston College loss.
Yeah, man, how about Hunter, dude? The guy throws up an egg against Boston College and then comes back in 2 straight games and scores 40+ points in 2+ games. And, he just commanded the point guard position. And you're talking about, you said they only hit 15% from three. Well, that has to do with Clemson's defense.
Yeah.
Clemson's perimeter defense was awesome. Their defense in general at that Baylor game was amazing and awesome. And
first half, it was off the charts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like Brownell said in the post game, he said, we played well for 38 minutes. And that was about right. because the last 2 minutes was a struggle. That to me, it almost looked like we almost ran out of gas a little bit. And go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is I was maybe prematurely hopping to the next point, but Cliff, circle back around to what you were about to say in just a second. But what I was going to try to get in was one guy that I was so impressed with yesterday, and I thought it was as good as he has played all year. Seemed like he took his game to the next level with P.J. Hall on the bench in foul trouble. What about the game that Ian Schieffelin had?
Yes.
Just that he's playing defense on one end. On the other end, I thought I was watching the mid-1990s Houston Rockets because I watched Ian Schieffelin put the dream shake fadeaway on a defender for Baylor, drew the foul, was an and one. He's flying in, he's getting rebounds, he's finishing at the rim. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if we win this game with P.J. Hall on the bench in foul trouble, what Ian Schieffelin is doing right now is going to be a huge reason why Clemson holds on and wins this game.
It's the physicality of it. It really is. And my bad, I'll just say this one point. And that it's shown the ACC and its physicality. Look at NC State, a Sweet 16 team, a very defensive, physical team. And that's how Clemson plays. And they were able to shake off Baylor. They were able to shake off New Mexico. And, again, there's 4 ACC teams in the Sweet 16, and they were a conference that was counted out all year. Same thing with the Big East, who, they constantly saw teams, your St. John's, your Seton Halls, your Wake Forests, your Pitts. All those teams could have won one game this tournament. That's all I have to say. I know Cliff, you had something to say, so I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, all I was going to say was just to follow up on Garrett's point about Ian Schieffelin. He's not a role player anymore. That dude's a star. And role player no more. And dude could definitely be, to me, could have been, if it wasn't for Chase Hunter, could have been player of the game, if you ask me, for Clemson. That's all.
Definitely. And, I've got to throw this little jab in there. Everybody coming into this tournament, and really it was kind of a narrative all season long, was that the ACC, for it being a basketball conference, for it being the predominant basketball conference, it was a down year for the ACC, or maybe the ACC wasn't as dominant. The SEC is becoming a basketball conference in addition to football. All of these great teams in the SEC. ACC only gets 5 teams in. Don't know how many teams the SEC got in. It was more than that. But look who's standing in the Elite Eight. It's not the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16. How many SEC teams are still standing? How many ACC teams are still standing? Right.
No.
5 ACC teams, 4 of them are still alive in the Sweet 16. So frankly, I think they need to change the acronym from the Southeastern Conference to seeing everyone cut. Because right now, all the SEC teams are getting cut down. Just an idea, throwing it out there. Do with it what you will, everybody. But, I'm seeing everybody from the SEC getting cut. I'm seeing everybody from the ACC still standing and playing.
So I want to say this, y'all. Let's just say we beat Arizona. How about this matchup? Clemson,
North Carolina,
for the Elite Eight.
Alabama too.
Yeah.
Watch us come back to this and Alabama wins.
Hey,
I was surprised.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because it's a rematch. And I mean, either if we beat Arizona, whoever we play in the Elite Eight is a rematch because it's either going to be North Carolina or it's going to be Alabama. And I'm willing to take on either one of them. Both of them we've beaten, which is kind of crazy. And to me, if Clemson keeps playing like they've been playing, they're a Final Four team. I'm just going to say it, man. I think we can beat North Carolina. I think we can do it again. I think we can beat Alabama again. But I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse before we beat Arizona, because I think as long as PJ stays out of foul trouble, which it's going to be hard to stay out. To me, it's going to be hard to stay out of foul trouble against Arizona because they do have a good big man, from what I understand.
Well, and on top of that, too, you talk about rematches. There's even a compelling, I guess you could call it a mini rematch in a sense, but one storyline to follow in this ball game is the Arizona star player is somebody that Clemson is intimately familiar with. Caleb Love, who played multiple seasons at North Carolina, who led the Tar Heels to the national championship game 2 years ago. He transferred to Arizona and was the Pac-12 Player of the Year. So
I did not know that.
This is a guy that he's extremely talented, but he's also somebody that Clemson is intimately familiar with.
Yeah, and the last time Love was in the Tar Heel Blue, he led the team in scoring. That 91-71 game against Clemson last season in the Dean Dome. He's a winner. He missed the tournament last year. He's upset. I think Caleb Love is the most dangerous player in the tournament, bar none. I honestly think he's a winner. He knows how to win. Look at the Duke. He knocked Coach K out of his coaching tenure. That's the type of dude he is. So if you're Clemson, you got to be on his radar. I think everybody on this Arizona starting five has to be on their radar. Kylan Boswell, the other guard, he's very Chase Hunter-like in my honest opinion. Pell Larson, he had double digits. But a guy that I really think that Clemson have to worry about is their power forward. I think Johnson's his last name. Incredibly he loves to get to the basket. You got to keep PJ Hall out of foul trouble. I think Jack Clark, that's going to be his assignment, being Clemson's top defender. You just got to prevent that to the cup. And then Umar Ballo, their star center. Arizona likes to run a motion offense similar to Duke. So you'll see high posts, high pick and rolls. So they're going to try to run Love and Ballo together. So a big task for Chase Hunter and Joe Girard, whoever's on Love, because, he can hit a shot from anywhere. That's just who Caleb Love is. And if Brad Brownell should be focused on any guy on the court, either his players or his opponent's players, it's got to be Caleb Love, because if he has 20 points or more, I think Arizona could burn the roof off of the Staple at the Crypto Arena and knock Clemson out of the Sweet 16. That's just the type of player that he is.
Don't worry, it's still the Staples Center to me too.
Yeah,
I just slipped over.
Yeah, so who covers Love? Who do you think covers Love? Is it Chase Hunter?
I would expect Chase. Yeah, I have to look at the Clemson game again to see who was covering. Jacoby Walter, Ray J. Dennis. But I would expect Chase Hunter to. Yeah, I wouldn't see any zone because Love would hit threes from the parking lot. I think that no matter who it is, I think that he's going to try to get a mismatch with running a high post with Ballo. Try to get PJ up out there to try to clear the paint to get a guy like Ballo or Johnson up to score. But I think Clemson just have to do the same. PJ has to stay out of foul trouble. And you've seen a lot of these backdoor cuts that Brownell likes to run a lot with, guys like Girard and Jack Clark and Chase Hunter. You got to get Ballo out of that middle of the paint because he leads the team in rebounds. He averages like 10.5 a game, which is, insane to think about compared to, Schieffelin and Hall. And, this team always out rebounds every team. They've out rebounded Long Beach, I think, is the school that they played in the first round, and they out rebounded Dayton. So it's a tough task at hand for Clemson to do. I think they could do it. Absolutely. They just have to stick to their game plan.
Yeah. How about it in the Baylor game? How about that pass? I don't know who passed it to him, but it was a pass to Girard, and it was one of these little things where Girard was running around the top of the key, and then he went over to the corner, and somebody threw over the top of the defense. That was sweet, dude. I was like, holy cow. That was awesome. That was a cool play that just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was just like, oh my God, that was a great play.
Well, Cliff, and that's true. Those Clemson guards, man, they really were dishing it out against Baylor. And speaking of dishing it out, it's exactly why you need to go check out our sponsor, Arden's Burger Grill. They're dishing out all of your game day food needs. You need to go see them before Clemson takes on Arizona on Friday. They'll hook you up with some of their great double dip wings, our personal favorite, sizzling grills, mouth-watering burgers. Arden's Burger Grill at 1280 18 Mile Road, Central, South Carolina really does have it all. So go check them out and get all of your game day food for Friday. Tell them their friends from around the Paul sent you there. You will not regret it. I can promise you that. Now, guys, before we move on and talk a little bit of baseball to wrap this show up, I do want to say this from a grander sense. But, Griffin, what about this NCAA tournament as a whole, man? It's not just the exciting moments that Clemson's had, how well the Tigers have played. I've been watching the NCAA tournament. I'm 39 years old, and I've been watching it ever since I was probably about 9 or 10. So we're talking 3 decades of my life. This is one of, in terms of the excitement and the drama, these are some of the best games that I can remember seeing in an NCAA tournament. It's been a fun tournament.
I completely agree. There have been more OT games than, I've seen in a while. Last night, Houston, Texas A&M. Houston were up, 9, 10 points or 2 minutes ago. A&M ran the table, came back. That's the type of games that are happening. I was talking with, you two before the podcast. Creighton, Oregon too. I was up to 12:30, 1 a.m. watching that game, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But I think it comes a lot to the transfer portal being a somewhat of a good thing. A lot of these teams are a lot more even than usual. You have to credit coaching too. You see teams like Oregon, able to use their momentum in the right way, run their pick and roll really well. Well, Oregon's just a team that I've watched because they were able to upset South Carolina. And then they gave Creighton a run for their money. But a lot of these different teams, and, a lot of people might be like, yeah, there's no really big Cinderella, besides NC State. But, some of these games have been so evenly matched that, no matter whoever comes out on top, I'm not worried about, because there was no big winner, in my honest opinion. It was in a way that, both teams were so good that one had to advance, and, the better team won that day. So a lot of these Sweet 16 matchups, UConn, San Diego State, that's a rematch of the national championship. North Carolina, Alabama, that's going to be all offense. Creighton, Tennessee, incredible game. Some of these games you just can't pick, which is an incredible thing. There's no concise winner, in my honest opinion. I just think the field is so even this year. So, like you said, I completely agree. It's been a great tournament.
Yeah, it really has. I haven't watched as many games as y'all have, but the games that I have watched, that I think it was Creighton Houston. Was that who played Houston?
Texas A&M Houston last night.
Texas A&M Houston. That one was crazy. That shot at the end of the game was nuts. The Creighton game was a little.
Houston, Texas A&M. The shot at the buzzer to send it to overtime.
Yeah, that shot was crazy. And there were a couple other ones that went into overtime and double overtime that were just nuts. And again, I didn't watch as much as y'all have because I was right in the middle of baseball. So that craziness of a series, but yeah, there have been some good games.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And look, I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm a stats guy. Everybody knows I like stats. To prove how important depth is at this point of the season, Oregon lost to Creighton in overtime. When you look at Oregon's box score, Oregon only had 4 players score. They only played 7 guys. And of the 4 players who scored for Oregon, 58 of their 71 points came from 2 guys. That is, to me, that is an absolutely absurd stat that in a second round NCAA tournament game, 2 players can score 58 of a team's 71 points. To me, you just can't win at this stage like that. You've got to have more than 2 guys.
Well, how about Houston fouling out 4 people? That's like a whole team.
4 starters.
Yeah, 4. All of them starters, and then they have backups come in to help them seal that game with some free throws. I mean,
it's crazy, man. You just this time of year, you never know what's going to happen. That's why they call it madness.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, look, speaking of madness, and Griffin, I know you were back home on spring break and enjoying life and watching all the basketball games. But Cliffs, you can talk a little bit more about this, man. Speaking of madness, What about the madness that took place this past weekend at Doug Kingsmore Stadium?
Holy cow, y'all. I'm not going to lie. Those 3 games I have never seen that before. Ever. Ever. And it was nuts. Like, Florida State comes out and first inning hits a grand slam. We walk like 2 or 3 guys. They hit a grand slam. I'm like, oh God. Like, here we go. But Ian Darden gets past that first inning and then pitches a heck of a game, a well of a game, and gets them into the 6th inning, and then Clemson just run rules them. And it was great. And then game 2 comes, and we get down 8-1. We're down 8-1 in the bottom of the 9th, right? And we get a couple of base hits and walks, and we get a hit that brings in a run or 2, and then we load the bases again, and guess who comes to the plate? Blake freaking Wright. What a week that dude had. And he had 2 grand slams this weekend. 21 RBIs in a week. 21 RBIs. And
do the averages on that. If you say a week 7 days, that's 3 RBIs a game for 7 straight games.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's picking it up and putting them down.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
So here it is, right here. Here you go, right here. He had 13 hits, 6 home runs, 2 walks, 21 RBIs. So 2 of those home runs were grand slams. And he hit I think his batting average was like 561 or something like that. And with men on base, his average was 810.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he is the national player of the week.
He's got 40 RBI. He is. He got the player of the week. And he has 40 RBIs right now. And if you I heard this on radio yesterday. If you average that out in a major league season, that's 210 RBIs.
Holy cow.
Not a hitter.
Yeah. And the dude just had a hell of a week. And I'm telling you, man, that second game was crazy. And I called it, man. I called it. I was sitting in the box, and I was like, Blake Wright's coming up. What if Blake Wright hits a grand slam? And the wind was blowing out to straight center. And sure enough, he hit it up there in that wind stream, and it took off. And that ball still hadn't come down. No joke. And then game 3. Oh, by the way, in game 2, Florida State got super chippy. Started yelling at the fans. A guy hit a home run, and he started yelling at the fans. And
you know what? That's when all I would say in that situation, if I was within earshot, I would just say, show us on the scoreboard where the Tigers hurt you.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Show us on the scoreboard where the Tigers hurt you.
Yep. And, I mean, that game 3 came, and we got down 11-2, and I was like, okay, we've won the series. Like, it's okay. Whatever, But I also was like, this game's not over. Like, the crazy thing was, after Saturday night, when we and on into Sunday, when we were down 11-2, that stadium was slam full. Nobody left. Nobody left on Saturday. And then they just walked us. That 6th and 7th inning, they walked us in one inning. and we got like I think 4 straight singles in the next inning, and then Blake Wright comes up with the bases loaded again, and I'm like, here it goes, he gonna do it again, and the dude threw a meatball down the middle, like a fastball right down the middle, crushed it, dude, crushed it, and I was like, if you were listening to that on the radio. Of William Quackenbush's call on the radio, you got to go listen to it. It's legendary, dude. It's legendary. And but Blake Wright is the man. Like the dude is in the zone.
And Cliff, it's just living proof that meatballs belong in Italian restaurants, not in the middle of the strike zone, right?
That's correct. Because I'm telling you, man, he laid that up there on a silver platter, and Blake Wright said, "Okay, you gonna do that? I'll show you where I'm gonna put it."
All right. So with the sweep over Florida State, who by the way was a top 5 team.
No, top 12. Yeah, they were undefeated. They were top 12.
Right. So
and yeah,
Clemson is now 22-2.
Yeah,
and the main poll we're ranked number 3 now. How look, we're 22-2. We have the best record in the country. Clemson has the best record in the country by win percentage.
Oh, by the way, Arkansas lost. Arkansas lost the game, by the way, and they're still number 1.
So that begs the question: outside of the natural bias that the national media has towards all things Clemson, why in the hell is this team not ranked number 1 in the goddamn country?
Just prove them wrong. I mean, there's
in a way
nothing easier than that.
Ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's all I had to say. Just prove them wrong. Keep winning. That's really all that matters.
Win anyway.
That's exactly. I was talking with a friend about this, and I was like, polls don't mean a dang thing. Just keep winning and keep winning series. We don't have to like win every game, but just keep winning series, and as long as we're in the top 8 at the end of the year, I don't care. Let's host a seed. Let's host a regional. But I guarantee you, the way this team's playing right now, we're going to have over 50 wins. And the way the schedule lays out, we're going to have 50 wins. Because there's nobody else on the schedule except for maybe Wake Forest, which is not to the end of the season. And I think we play Florida State again at Florida State. And but I think it's later on in the year. So but the way it lines up, I mean, we're gonna have, if we keep playing like we're playing, we're gonna have 50 wins. Easy.
And look,
I'm calling it now.
Do not underestimate what 3 crushing, gut-wrenching, devastating losses like what Clemson just handed to Florida State. Don't underestimate what that does to a team's psyche. Just how much mental damage did Clemson inflict on the Seminoles this past weekend?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Take a look at last season when Clemson lost to Tennessee in that crazy, I forget how many innings, but I was up
14.
till late at night, and then you go the next day again. I'm not in baseball mode yet, and then you lose to a team that you should have beaten in your regional. That's what happens, and I love seeing teams in the ACC perform well. It looks good on the conference. It looks good on Clemson, but they'll bounce back. It's just a matter of when, and I think the next few days are going to be a little bit rough, especially being up in an away park and just. Them coming back in the 9th inning, not once, but twice, and then getting run ruled. It hurts. But, they'll bounce back for sure. Good teams bounce back, so we'll figure out if Florida State's a good team. But I think they are, so I think they'll be good.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this about Florida State. They're a good team. And 3 crushing blows can do a lot to your psyche, but they're still a good team. In a 3-game series this weekend, they hit 12 home runs. They hit 12 home runs. And I think they hit 2 or 3 grand slams.
Yeah, so we haven't seen the last of them. We have not seen the last of the Seminoles. But be interesting to see how quickly they recover from this past weekend.
Yeah. Yep. They have to recover fast, but that team can do it. They're really good, and they'll recover. We'll see them again, at FSU. I would love to go down there and watch that game. I think that would be awesome. But yeah, this baseball team, I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen a baseball team like this. I've seen 2 baseball teams like this, and it was 02, Khalil Green, and then 2010. And guess who was coaching on that 02 team? Eric Bakich. And but yeah, they remind me a lot of 2010, and they remind me of my dog wants to say something. But they remind me of 2010. They remind me of 02, and yeah. So,
Cliff, all your dog's saying is "Go Tigers." Your dog knows the deal. Your dog knows the score, saying "Go Tigers."
Yeah.
And so are we, guys. I tell you what, fun show, and we will certainly be counting down to Friday and waiting for Clemson to take on the Arizona Wildcats. And if Clemson is able to put their star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame by the time they leave Los Angeles, then we're going to be right here on Around the Paul to tell you all about it. And we're going to talk about it, break it down, and we'll be celebrating just as much as everybody out there watching this. But we certainly appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you like what we do, then give us a like and sub here on YouTube. Helps us, helps with the algorithm, and lets us know that you appreciate what we're doing as well. Go check out our website, clemsonsportsmedia.com. We have great stories every single day on all things Clemson athletics. We've got a whole crew of great writers. You don't want to miss any of what we've got there at clemsonsportsmedia.com. You can follow us at CU Sports Media on X, formerly known as Twitter, and we'll have all manner of updates and links and information and stories posted there too. So there's a lot of ways you can check us out at Clemson Sports Media. And for those of you who do, we appreciate it. And we hope we get even more as we've gone through already becoming such a great year, guys, for Clemson athletics. And it's only going to get better from here.
Absolutely. Baseball is looking incredible with one of the best starts in program history. But you got to be proud of this basketball team no matter what happens this upcoming week. If you told me that this team is going to win 2 tournament games back in November, I would be over the moon. And I'm sure Clemson fans are over the moon, especially just getting to see your team play deep into March and, potentially next week into April is something of many people only dream of. So, credit to all these teams playing so well. It's just truly is a great time to be a Clemson Tiger. But how about gymnastics? They're their first national, and their coach, Amy Smith, won ACC Coach of the Year. Not bad for a first-year program.
Yeah, I totally agree. Gymnastics is doing great. And all them Brownell haters just need to shut their mouths. Even the Clemson fans that are the Brownell haters, they need to shut their mouths and just let him coach. And yeah. That's all I got to say about that.
Look. We like food here on Around the Paul. The more they keep opening their mouths, the more crow they can fit in it.
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth?
Yep.
Well, guys,
for sure.
Pleasure as always. Great show. A lot of fun, exciting things happening right now in the world of Clemson Tiger athletics. And we've got the big one coming up on Friday. We'll be right back at you on the next episode of Around the Paul. Win, lose, draw, come hell or high water, we'll talk about it. But until then, I'm Garrett Mitchell for Griffin Barfield and Clifton Kennedy saying good luck, Godspeed, God bless, and as always, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
And that game is Thursday, by the way.
Thursday.
7:09.
Yep, 7:09 Thursday. But
the
go
first
Tigers.
good thing that you don't have to wait for.
Yep. Yep. So, all right, y'all. Go Tigers.
Yes, sir. See you, everybody.